So you've got the 101 or close to 102, 103, and you're not quite sure how you should navigate your draft. Well, today we're talking about the best players available to draft from this position early in your drafts. This idea kind of came from seeing a lot of Twitter threads and really good articles about best player available in each round of your drafts. However, I don't think that is absolutely applicable to every single situation because let's say you want to draft Jamar Chase, but you've got the 101. Well, it might feel a little too early to grab him, or Cooper Kupp even. Grab him at the 101 because giving up Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey just feels silly. But then you're not going to get them in round two. They're not going to make their way back around to you. So we're going to talk about the best players for you to craft a really dominant and balanced team for 2022 redrafts. I am drafting here on Sleeper today on my board here with me. We're doing a 12-team half PPR, which in 2022 is pretty default. That would kind of be your default scoring, not standard, but your default scoring settings. We've got one quarterback, two running back, two wide receiver, a tight end, and a flex, and then a couple bench spots to go through as well. So pretty typical, pretty standard league. Before we jump in today, I should say, if you are enjoying the content, please leave a like on the video for the YouTube algorithm. Really helps out the channel. If you're listening on podcasts, a rating and review goes a far way to helping out the channel. Without further ado, let's get into drafting. So on the clock here at the 101, there is heavy debate between Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey. And to be honest with you, I could go either way on this one. I do acknowledge the fact that if Christian McCaffrey plays a full season on a points per game basis, he has proven to be the superior fantasy option over Jonathan Taylor. However, in a half PPR, I give a slight edge to Jonathan Taylor, and I'm sort of betting more so on the offense. I do believe that the Colts will be in better positions to score. We'll have the ball more times than not. So I'm going to sort of push my chips towards the better team and the player who's proven to be a little bit more stable over the last two seasons, and that's Jonathan Taylor. So I will take him at the 101. If you take Christian McCaffrey, I'm good with it. In a full PPR, I would go McCaffrey. In a standard scoring, it would be a toss-up between Henry and Taylor. I'd still probably go Taylor, but that's why we do projections and rankings. And if you want to see those, you can do so for yourself on our website. The link will be in the episode description, so you can jump on over there. Back to me at the 212. Two players I'm sort of keeping my eye on here. Mark Andrews is one of them. Really tempted to go with Mark Andrews, and I've built out a couple teams with him at this 2-3 turn. If you were to take that positional advantage, I do believe it is advantageous. However, today, I'm not going to do so. I typically punt the tight end in the quarterback positions for depth and for elite players at the running back and wide receiver position. So that's probably what we're going to do here today. My sixth ranked running back for 2022 is Javonte Williams. I do believe the breakout is coming. I do believe he sees a larger share of the workload instead of a 50-50 split with Melvin Gordon. I do believe it will be more of a 70-30, and I have projected him that way. Then when it comes down to, who do we want to have as our RB3 or our wide receiver one? I've done a couple drafts where Zeke Elliott falls to the third. And if Zeke falls to the third, I think he's a really, really nice piece. And that gives you a really stable, trio of running backs that you can build a team around. Mike Evans is a wide receiver that jumps out to me. And Mike Evans has had, I think, 7 or 8 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. This man has not had a sub 1,000-yard season with Chris Godwin in question, with them bringing in guys like Russell Gage and Julio Jones. I fully believe that Mike Evans will continue to be the focal point of this passing offense. I don't have any reservations about Brady. I think this is all just overblown with him not reporting to camp. So Mike Evans is going to be my pick here as my wide receiver one. And you see Mark Andrews go off the board. Again, if you were to go Mark Andrews, completely fine. It's something that you should experiment with and mock draft out what your team looks like with an elite tight end. But we're going to try to get a breakout tight end later in this draft, in about the 9th, 10th round. So a little bit of rolling the dice, but something that we can absolutely do. Coming back to us at the 4-12. So we started Taylor, Javonte Williams, and Mike Evans. It comes back to us here, and with J.K. Dobbins still on the board is very, very tempting, but it is also nice to start getting those sort of wide receivers. They're in a tier above the rest. And with other running backs to sort of talk about here, J.K. Dobbins, somebody I really like. A.J. Dillon at value right now is nice. Clyde Edwards-Helaire still looks to be the one for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then I also really like guys like Chase Edmonds and Rashad Penny later. Having Taylor and Williams sets me a really good floor from those guys. So I'm just going to probably double down on wide receiver here. And Courtland Sutton is an auto pick for me, as is Jalen Waddle. So I'm going to go Waddle and Sutton, and I'm just going to build out my wide receiver. So I think in a half PPR, there's some good volume here. There's also some good upside with Evans and Sutton being more red zone threats, so to speak. And I really do think that Courtland Sutton has the ability to finish as a top 12 wide receiver with a guy like Russell Wilson, who is somebody that I am keeping my eye on here in the 6th and 7th rounds. So you can see that he is currently available. TJ Hawkinson is a tight end that sort of pokes his head out here and there and is tempting to go for, but this is where I really just believe in building out a little bit more depth and getting some players that you can sub in on bye weeks or even play matchups with. So looking at the wide receiver position, really tempted to go DeAndre Hopkins, but he is suspended 6 games, and I'm not willing to take him this early in my draft. I also really like Kareem Hunt. Kenneth Walker, I feel like, is a hair of a reach. Would have been nice if Bateman or Juju, if any one of these 3 wide receivers, Mooney, Bateman, or Juju, were available, it would be an auto pick for me right there. However, now I'm sort of put into a precarious situation, and I'm not the biggest Gabe Davis believer. So this one for me, I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt for the fact that it gives us a reliable RB3. Kareem Hunt is one of the few running backs in the league that has standalone value, meaning he doesn't need Nick Chubb to go down in order for him to be viable for your fantasy leagues. But if something were to happen to Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt would be a potential league winner in the back of the 6th round. And then coming back, a spot that I really, really like to grab this player, Russell Wilson. I'm going to pair him with Courtland Sutton. It is a tad early for me for quarterback, but he is falling. So I'm going to take him for what he projects to bring to this Denver offense. Another target that I like at the quarterback position is Aaron Rodgers in the 9th. So that's where we're going to go. And that opens us up later down the road to maybe play around with Albert Okwuegbunam and go with that tri-stack of him and Sutton. But we'll see. We'll see what the draft brings to us. But some really nice targets that I like. This team is very balanced. 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and, in my opinion, still an elite quarterback in Russell Wilson. All right, comes back to us, and we have some nice pieces still left on the board. I'm going to blow this up and give you a little bit of a bigger view. Devin Singletary is tempting. Zach Ertz is a really nice value here in the, back of the 8th, beginning of the 9th. And if we look at the tight ends that are available right now, Zach Ertz, Pat Freiermuth, Mike Gesicki, Cole Kmet is ultimately my target here in the 10th round. So we would have to wait 24 picks for him to come back to us, and it might not end up playing out that way. So if he does come back to us, that would kind of hurt, but I think I am going to go Zach Ertz here because I do think when you look at this receiving core, they're bringing in a new piece like in Marquise Brown, who's great, and I think that he will be great with Kyler. But Rondale Moore, I don't know, is that guy. They lost Christian Kirk, really good threat for Kyler Murray downfield, could play a possession receiver type role, and we don't have him anymore. So where's the ball going to go? it's going to go to Zach Ertz. And that's what Zach Ertz showed as he did join this team last year, midway through, I think it was week 7, was really good for fantasy. And so I think when you look at the tier break that exists between Freiermuth and Gesicki and even Albert O, I think there's a tier break. I think he's the last of the tier. So I'm going to take Zach Ertz there. And then looking elsewhere, I do like Devin Singletary in a PPR or half PPR league. I like James Cook as well. But I think I'm going to go down the board and I'm going to take a shot on a guy like Dameon Pierce, who is projected to be a starting running back here for the Houston Texans. Not the greatest offense to get a piece of, but I do like the upside that he presents for my team. And when it comes to my wide receivers, I'm not very concerned with Evans, Waddle, and Sutton. And there's a lot of value late on wide receivers, as you're going to sort of see here. Cole Kmet's still available. Would have been a nice pick, but we'll probably ultimately pass on. And you know what? We will grab him here. We will grab him here just for the fact of playing some matchups. Michael Gallup's a guy that I also really, really like. George Pickens as well. But this is, when it comes to rookie wide receivers, in my opinion, this is the range for you to grab one of those rookie wide receivers. I think paying the cost of an Olave, a Burks, a Wilson, or even where is our guy Drake London here? Drake London, beginning of the 8th. Those guys have to play for you. They have to hit for you. Whereas these guys are upside pieces that don't really need to play out. Your team's going to be fine if they miss. I do like George Pickens though. I also do like Russell Gage. Too bad for Christian Watson with his cleanup procedure. Michael Gallup's probably going to be out for 6 weeks or so. Let's grab Cole Kmet. I do think there is a breakout season happening for the young man. And then let's go with George Pickens. Yeah, I don't mind the team so far. Looking back, I think we've got some really nice options at tight end. I think we've got 2 running backs here that could really make a difference for our team. And then we've probably got to just round out with 1 or 2 wide receivers to add to the squad. But I think all in all, very balanced, very playable. Jacoby Myers, a guy in the back of the 12th round who finished in a half PPR as like the wide receiver 36, I believe. In full PPR, I know he was wide receiver 30. You're getting a wide receiver 3 like performance in the back of the 12. It just makes no sense that he's going here, and I'll absolutely take him. Jameson Williams and Kenny Golladay, also 2 targets that I really, really like. Romeo Doubs is very interesting. If he can step up and grab a larger share of that workload in Green Bay, absolutely something that you should maybe try to get a piece of. I also like targeting Allen Lazard, but you see that we just missed him in the back of the 8th. DJ Chark, Jalen Tolbert, 2 other names that I'll throw out at wide receiver here. Tolbert, if you look at this Dallas offense, missing Michael Gallup for probably 6 games. But Dalton Schultz, Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb should see the majority of that work. So Jalen Tolbert is tempting, but I think that the expectations on him are higher than what I think reality will be. DJ Chark, we've seen finish as a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. Probably not going to happen with a guy like Jared Goff, but certainly an interesting piece here in the end. Jahan Dotson, I like what I've seen in preseason, but I'm not overly impressed with Carson Wentz there. So if I'm being completely honest, I'm going to go with Romeo Doubs. I want an upside piece. I don't really love the Devontae Parker going to New England. It sours a little bit of my Jacoby Myers, and I don't want double exposure to those wide receivers. Other considerations, Khalil Herbert, I think, will spell a little bit of David Montgomery this year, but I'm ultimately going to go with Romeo Doubs. So looking back at this build, don't mind it whatsoever. The doubling up of Ertz and Kmet is probably where I could have switched things up and taken another wide receiver. But all in all, very, very balanced. Hunt and Pierce provide us some upside. If anything were to happen to Nick Chubb per se, or Dameon Pierce does break out and get that, heavy volume, because that's all we want in the running back positions. And then, Russell Wilson, I think, is still a difference maker and has a lot of really good pieces. Javonte Williams, Courtland Sutton, Russell Wilson, we've sort of tripled down on the Denver Broncos. And if you go to our My Guys episode, nothing out of the ordinary. Very, very bullish on those players. So there's my team that I've crafted from the 101. And hopefully that gives you some insight on players that we do like. Look forward to a middle and an end of your draft sort of guide or targets for you. We're going to be having those come out this week as well. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week. We will be going live tomorrow night, Landon and myself. So stay tuned for that. And hopefully you guys have a good week. Good luck in your draft seasons. And as always, if you have any questions for us, leave them in the comment section below. We will answer every single one of your questions.